Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again. So today, we're going to talk about businesses warning Trump about the economy. The already lengthy list of companies warning Trump and the American consumer about the effects of his trade policies is growing. It added two big names this week, Mattel and Ford. I want you to pause for just a second to think about how wide-ranging the effects will be when you have companies as different as Mattel and Ford both being impacted. And keep that in mind as I go through just a handful of the other major companies that have made public statements about the current economic situation. Mattel, the toy maker, they make everything from Barbie to Hot Wheels. About 4 out of 5 toys sold in the U.S. are made in China. Mattel has indicated they plan on diversifying their supply chain. Now, the most likely option is they move out of China into another country, not the U.S. They already have operations in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. They also indicated they'd be, quote, taking pricing action in its U.S. business. Taking pricing action is financial speak for raise prices. As basically every economist said, tariffs raise prices. Their whole job is to raise prices. In an update to investors, the toy giant said, quote, given the volatile macroeconomic environment and evolving U.S. tariff landscape, it is difficult to predict consumer spending and Mattel's U.S. sales in the remainder of the year and holiday season. Volatile. Difficult to predict. Another word for that would be uncertain. Markets hate uncertainty. Ford has said they expect Trump's tariffs to cost them $2.5 billion, but said they could mitigate some of it. Ford's gross profit for 2024 was around $26 billion. Even if they could find a way to mitigate $1 billion worth of the additional costs, do you see them not raising prices? They've said they don't see a significant increase coming, but I'm uncertain. In other news, Ford suspended their earnings guidance due to uncertainty. That covers toys and cars. What about tech? Intel's CFO recently said, quote, the very fluid trade policies in the U.S. and beyond, as well as regulatory risks, have increased the chance of an economic slowdown, with a probability of a recession growing. Fluid. Markets hate uncertainty. What about fashion? David Weinberg over at Skechers said, quote, the current environment is simply too dynamic from which to plan results with a reasonable assurance of success. Dynamic. Markets hate uncertainty. What about household goods? People at Procter & Gamble have said they were looking at changes to, quote, some level of consumer pricing. Higher prices. Home improvement. Chief Operations Officer at Stanley Black & Decker said, quote, pricing actions are the quickest countermeasure at our disposal. Higher prices. What about pretty much everything else? The CEO of Amazon was talking about third-party sellers and said, quote, I think they'll try and pass the cost on. Higher prices. Golly, it seems like the economists were right. The key thing for the Trump administration to take away from this is that companies are starting to plan their moves around his uncertainty and trade policies. That's not going to be good for the economy. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.